What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineers Without Filters podcast, episode 84. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and tonight I'm following suit of the other boys. They got me a nice old soft parade, baby.
Ooh.
It's 7.5%, and it always makes me happy to see.
I saw that, Gabe. You can't hide that. The beer that you're drinking. I saw the top inch of your can.
I think it's your turn. I think you gotta say what you're doing.
No, it's
It's
not Dave's
not.
turn. It's Joe's
Oh
turn.
yeah, you're last.
Fucking idiot. I'm Joseph, and I'm drinking Surly Brewery One Man Mosh Pit.
All right, classic.
You really gonna support Surly after the shit they pulled last week?
I bought this before then.
Okay.
Well, Gabe, what is it, huh?
All right. Well, I'm Gabe, and I'm drinking the Tangerine Space
I
Machine
fucking knew it. I knew
from
it.
New Holland Brewing.
God damn it! I want it so bad.
Went
Dude,
to
I
Michigan last weekend, and I fucking snagged some.
I saw it when I was there, and I was like, "Do I need it? Nah,
You need
I'll
it.
get it later." and then I'll
Dude,
never
when
do
I
it.
was home, I literally totally forgot about it.
Oh really?
Yeah,
No,
well,
I
my
bought a soft parade, like 15-pack, and then a 6-pack of Tangerine Space Machine.
Ah.
So
Fuck, dude. It sounds so good right now.
it is fantastic.
damn.
Dave,
All
what
right.
do you got?
So I'm drinking this. It's just kind of like it was left in our fridge from when we had some people over. It is Hell or High Watermelon wheat
Oh, I
beer.
remember seeing that one.
Yeah. It's honestly pretty good. It tastes better than I remember it tasting, which is good. It, Usually I'm not like a huge fan of like watermelon flavors, but like it's pretty solid. And I didn't feel like, bringing another all day IPA out because, I gotta save those.
Can't drink them all day.
Yeah. No. Well.
Well, bet you could. I bet you could.
Well, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. This is episode 84. As always, you can find our show every Monday on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Play. At least usually every Monday. Sometimes we have some hiccups, but thank you for your patience on that kind of stuff. And again, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at EWF Podcast or some goofy photoshops. And you can follow us on Twitch at EWF_podcast, where we're live right now recording. You can come watch us early on Thursday nights around 8 Eastern, 7 Central, if you want to do that. I gotta tell you, boys, I was needing this beer because, one, I had a long day, but also it's a celebration beer because I have officially dropped one of my classes.
Oh.
Cheers to that.
Hey. Boom.
And it's an extra cheers because this class met on Tuesday and Thursday nights from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And it was that's just the worst time to sit in a lecture where you have to like be on the ball. So I'm relaxing tonight, boys.
Nice. Wait, so how many weeks of class have you had now?
This is week 3.
Wait, so how did you manage that Thursdays when we record?
In the past 3 weeks, we haven't had a recording day on a Thursday since I've had that class. That's how sporadic we've been.
Oh,
We
seriously?
moved it because we moved it to Wednesday for a couple.
Yeah.
And I actually
we
thought
did a Monday and a Wednesday, and like our shit's been so messed up recently, and I thought it was going to be an issue, and then it ended up dropping it, so it never was an issue.
Oh. Huh.
But yeah.
All right.
Did you also move your Big Brother session with your friends, or what's the?
That's on hiatus right now because of
Okay.
people being busy. But me and some of those same friends went last night. We just went to a park and just drank beer, and it was so nice.
That's the classic like beginning of the semester shit where you like hang out with people and like, oh, it's great. Gonna hang out with people all the time. And then you got school and then you got work and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
Friday nights it is. Like, that's all you get.
I really want to have Wednesday night I hang out with them, Thursday night we have the podcast, and like Friday night I can just and Saturday do whatever I want.
Right.
I know it's not gonna stick for ever, but yeah, no, it was nice. It's really nice talking to people like other grad students right now, just as like they're older, so they can kind of help me with shit that I'm struggling with. Mostly just like the first semester grad school just sucks because you just feel so stupid and you're figuring shit out. So it's nice to have the people to like bounce off of and stuff. But it was
Mhm.
also just nice to just sit outside and just drink a brewski.
For
I've not
sure.
done that in a long time.
Yeah. I have a couple of friends who are in grad school, and everything that I've heard about it is just like, no offense, Jacob, made me so happy I'm not in school. And like
No,
made me like, I don't know, just like homework in general. I don't know. I go home and I'm done.
Yep.
no, it's not for everybody. And like, I dropped a class because I was taking 3 classes, which doesn't sound like a lot, and that's why I took 3. I'm like, and people normally take 2, but like I can handle it. Like classes aren't that bad. And then I got into it and was like, fuck, this is a lot with like research. And also graduate classes, I'm realizing are a totally different animal, just because like the discussion element, like it's really small class sizes, and you have to like talk all the time and like just fucking focus. And the lectures are like 2 hours. So yeah, it's just a lot more brain power, and you're just and you know, I know you guys obviously work like 8-9 hour jobs all day, so like, it's not what I'm used to, and I know I shouldn't complain about it too much, but it's a different for me now. Like 8 to 5, like I'm on campus doing shit or doing on homework, or just being on for that long is a big change. Right?
That's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
It's amazing
especially
how
in-
much thinking makes you tired.
For sure.
Yeah, like today, I have like a project buddy, I guess, or a lab buddy who's like in the same kind of boat as me. That we work together, and it was me, him, and then my professor in the lab, and he just gave us his problem. He's like, all right, I gotta go, so figure it out. And like in retrospect, it wasn't that hard of a problem, but we've just never done this shit before, so it just took us forever. Like I had to do these. We were making like regression curves and like trying to make some linear data association. Like he came back, he's like, you guys, you got to do this one equation. It was super easy, and it's like, all right, well, it's just that like engineer trying to over like analyze, find some relationship shit, but it's a good learning experience, but it is like exhausting for just like thinking for that long with kind of like that pressure on you because you want to perform well and like impress your boss or professor or whatever. So but I want to hear briefly about Gabe and Joseph, your Michigan trips this last weekend.
Yeah. So I went home for this last weekend, which was Labor Day. Gabe tagged along because he's a mooch.
Yep.
But anyway, the long and short of it is that I went home, but I did not tell my mother that I was going to be home. So I surprised the one and only Crazy Cat. And I told my dad and my sisters so that we could like plan it all out. So that like I wasn't going to be like completely surprising everyone, because that can be a lot, especially with like my family has, I've got quite a few young nieces and nephews. So like just planning stuff around can be difficult. So anyway, I told my sisters and we planned it out, and then my dad had found out. So we were just gonna surprise my mom, and the closer and closer it got, the more I thought that she knew about it, because she was gonna try to plan a trip to come out here like in 2 weeks, and my sisters were gonna come, and they're like, nah, I don't think it's gonna work out. And so like we thought, oh well, she's gonna figure it out. But man, I tell you what, I got there, and I like, so my parents were at their lake. My mom's been at the lake house since this whole shit started, because if you're gonna be cooped up, might as well be at the lake, right? So she's been down there, and there's like, it's split into 2 buildings. So like one's the garage, and then there's like a little apartment above it that's like on a hill. So I parked behind it and walked through there, and then my mom came up to the front to like help my sister get stuff out of her car because we drove together. And I like opened the door and I waved at her, and she waved at me, but like looked at me like, who is that? And why are they walking out of there? Like, what's going on? And I just like was like, hi mom. And she's like looks at me more, and she goes, you're here. And then I like ran up to her and we hugged, and she started crying and I started crying, and it was great. And then she got mad. She's like, why didn't you tell me? And then she turned and looked at my sister and goes, did you know? And then she like grilled all my sisters and my dad to see who knew and who didn't. And she was really happy to see me. but really upset that we surprised her. But it was fun, and I'm glad I did it.
That's
I
classic,
also
like human shit where somebody waves at you and you're just like, oh yeah, hi, and you're like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah,
and
you're not
I was
expecting
talking to
them.
her later, and she's like, "Oh, it's Joseph. Wait a second. Joseph's in Minnesota. He can't be here. He told me he's not going to be here.
Mhm.
What's he doing here? That can't be him. That's got to be, his cousin, right? Her, one of her nephews. But that doesn't make sense either. Why would he be here? That is Joseph. What? And then just racking the brain of who it could be, and because I'm the tallest person in my family, like including all my cousins and everything. So it's significant, right?
Mhm.
So it's like there's no one in my family's that tall. What's going on here? So that was really fun, and I also brought my new girlfriend with me, so she got to meet my entire family, which was a lot for her. But
It was a lot for me meeting your whole family, and I knew half of them already.
Exactly. So yeah, it was a lot, but it was fun. It was a couple days, and yeah, and Gabe came along for a little bit, and then we did the same thing that we did over Thanksgiving last year, where we left after work, drove through the night, but it was a lot less stressful because I could see the road this
Yeah,
time.
it wasn't snowstorming, and then thunderstorming.
Yeah, it was actually a fairly pleasant drive. We got there about 3 a.m. Michigan time.
And the power wasn't out in the entire city.
Exactly. So, overall a better experience. My sister made us breakfast in the morning. Gabe missed out on that, but
We got breakfast in town.
yeah. So, no, it was overall really good. Got to go water skiing. I taught my niece how to water ski. She's 8, so that was really exciting. And they were full size water skis, and they didn't have the little thing in front to keep them tied together. So it was real water skiing. She was very excited. And I was happy to teach her that. And yeah, overall it was a really fun. We also couldn't tell my nephew Calvin that I was going to be there because he's 4 and a fucking loudmouth. Joseph's coming, Uncle Joseph's coming, blah blah blah. And my mom would be like, "What do you mean? No, he's not. Wait a sec," kind of thing. Where would he get that idea? So we couldn't tell him until that day. So I pulled up to my sister's house, and he was sitting in the window waiting for me. It was adorable.
Did your girlfriend pass the Calvin test? Did he like her?
She did.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. She, as far as I can tell, all the little, well, yeah, because before we left, he was reading her a fish book.
Was it the same one that
No,
I read him, or was that a different one?
no, it wasn't the Berenstein Bears one. I don't know which one it was. The Berenstein Bears one ripped. It's missing 2 pages now.
What the fuck?
I know, he's just too aggressively
happened?
reading it.
Yeah.
It's a real page turner, right?
But it was really funny because I was going through one of the books with him, and he knows all the names of all these fucking sea creatures, right? And he's saying really obscure fish names that most people don't know and stuff. And so you think he's reading the names off of it because he'll point at it and say what it is, and it's exactly what it says underneath, right? But then he gets to one and he names it completely wrong. And you're like, wait a second, he's not reading it. He's just memorized the different things. And I could tell that Alyssa clicked with her, oh, he's not fucking reading it. He just knows the names, and then sometimes he gets it wrong because certain fish look similar, but so yeah, a sea snake versus an eel, shit like that. You get shit confused.
That's a rookie mistake.
Honestly,
who makes that mistake?
Sounds like you got a dumbass
Can
nephew.
list the difference between a conger eel, a gulper eel, and a moray eel. Which
Moray eels are the ones that fuck you up. Gulper ones are the ones that got the big ass mouths.
you got a huge fucking mouth.
It's like a hinge mouth. It's
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Dude, I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Fuck eels. I fucking hate them. They're disgusting.
There is
Just
some other
water
eel
snakes.
too.
They're
That I
worse.
don't
They're
remember.
uglier.
Yeah.
Oh, God, they're so fucking ugly.
Water
Um,
snakes at least breathe air. Fucking eels don't.
It's funny how some kids get really into one subject like that, I
Mhm.
was listening to a podcast like a long time ago, where this guy was saying like his son was just super into sprinklers for some reason. Like he just like read up on all the different like sprinkler types and like brands and shit. He had like brand like preferences for sprinklers. And apparently one time they had a contractor come over to like do some work on the house, and the kids started talking to him about sprinklers. And afterwards, the contractor's like, "Your kid's like an expert on sprinklers." He's like, "Yeah, I don't know what to do," because like the dad doesn't know anything fucking about them. The kid's just spewing all these sprinkler facts at him.
I imagine the kid like memorizing like the spray patterns of the water.
Oh
Just be like,
yeah.
oh,
Oh,
this
yeah.
one will be extra gentle on the plants, but it's not quite. It doesn't go quite as far. This one is just like a freaking water jet, and it's great.
Like, dude, it's like that guy who's at the community garden by your house.
Oh,
who's just
it was
freaking-
just he was like an inch away from the plant, just blasting the leaves with the freaking water jet. Like he literally didn't give a shit.
Bust
And
out a
then
pressure washer.
that's pretty much what he was doing. He was just blasting these plants, dude. It's like, yo, fuck them plants. And then he would just like point it right into the dirt, like right at the base of the plant. And it's just like, bro, you're gonna ruin all the dirt right by the roots. It's just like, oh,
It's so funny, dude.
this guy, and he would smoke cigarettes, but only when his wife wasn't around.
Just ripping darts in the back.
Yeah.
Ripping
Needless to
darts.
say, all of his shit is dead right now. Ugh.
Gabe, what about you? Did you end up being bored on your mom's couch, or was it okay?
Uh, kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really have a whole lot of exciting stories. There was one day like my grandparents came over and like supposed to be like for lunch, but they stayed the entire day. So like by the end of it, I was like, please no. It wasn't all that exciting. And then the last day we went to like some brewery, and then went to the Lansing Zoo, saw some animals.
Those are fun.
I guess like as far as stories, I got one decent one. My mom has a back porch, and being still sort of kind of the summer, there's a lot of bees and hornets. My mom is not a fan of bees or hornets. Most people aren't, but I've kind of adopted the idea if you just leave them alone, they're not gonna fuck with you. So I don't like move. I just kind of like let it do its thing, and then
Mhm.
it usually flies away. Even if it lands on you, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Her methodology is the moment it is within 6 feet, you must run. But like, I don't know. There was like one time there was one just like chilling, like it landed on like the table that like I was like drinking a beer by, or we were having drinks by, and she's like, "I'm gonna kill it." I'm like, "Why? It's not doing anything." She's like, "I'm gonna get it." She missed and pissed it off. Regardless, it's just like, Mom, give me some fucking hornet killer. We're gonna end this problem right now. I'm sick of seeing you dip and weave through these fucking bees.
We're going with the nuclear option. all
Yeah.
right?
So I straight murk like 3 hornets in a row, like getting the 20 feet spray, whatever. I'm lasering these fuckers. I get them done for the day. The next day we're out, and there's a few stragglers, all right? And I was busy doing something. I think it was drinking beer. I was like, Mom, just fucking kill him with the spray. I'm gonna go get a beer. So I come back from a beer, and a bee happened to cross my path of travel,
Oh,
and she
jeez.
hoses me down
Oh.
with
God.
fucking hornet killer.
Oh my god.
And I was pretty pissed. It's like, Mom, what the fuck? And she's like, it flew by you. Like, no shit, but why'd you fucking pull the trigger?
Did it, like, did it burn you at all? Like I don't.
No, it's just on my clothes. But
Oh, okay.
so we washed the clothes, but they're fucked. Like,
Yeah.
there's one
Yeah.
shirt I really liked, and I enjoyed it a lot, but you can see the marks in the spray and stuff.
Was it your Alter Bridge one?
No, it was the black one with like the half circle design, the white one or gray.
You just said
I have a lot of
4
black
different
shirts.
colors.
I have a lot of black.
Yeah.
I won it at a career fair thing like a couple of years ago.
Okay.
But it's like,
Is that the one that
pretty
says
simple.
work simple?
No, it says Palantir at the bottom. Or no, I didn't win it. They just gave it to me. Palantir is the company.
Hmm.
Regardless,
Yeah.
I like the shirt. I'm just disappointed. Yeah, that was my excitement for the weekend.
That reminds me of a bee story. Not nearly as exciting, but still kind of funny. So there was this bumblebee that had landed in the lake by our dock. And it's like, okay, it's a bumblebee. Like they're good pollinators. They're not wasps or hornets. Like they're actually like good, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, all right, we should like get it out of there. So I get like a stick and I, put it up underneath the bee so it can climb on the stick, and then I like move it over to a bush so it climbs on there, and it's like kind of drying off, and like it's taking a while to get on the bush, whatever. So I like kind of hurry it along. It gets on there. I go back, sit down on the deck, and I'm sitting there drinking the beer because it's a hot summer's day, right? And then this bumblebee lands on my arm, and I'm like, I don't like that. It's a bumblebee, but I'm not a big fan. And I'm just like, okay, swat at a little bit. It doesn't do anything. Like, whatever. I'm not gonna like aggravate it because I don't want to get stung. But I'm not a big fan of it on my arm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all right, he'll get the gist that I'm not a flower pretty soon, and he'll fly away. Except he doesn't. He just starts crawling up my arm. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to like this less and less. And then like, I'm on by the lake, so I'm shirtless. So it like climbs onto my shoulder, and I'm like, okay, this is not funny anymore. And it goes behind my back, and I'm like, I can't see it anymore. This is making me nervous. And it's just crawling across my back. And I like run away because it's like maybe the air will like get it to fly off, and I'm like swatting at. I'm like, I need this off of me. Like I don't like it on my back where I can't see it, and it's like I can feel it crawling on me. Ugh. And then I finally got it away.
Jump in the water?
Huh?
You didn't jump in the water? I feel like that would have solved your problem real
That's how the
fucking
bee
quick.
got in the water in the first place.
Yeah, I didn't want to
Yeah.
put it back. I figured it's the same bee. I didn't want to put it back in the water.
Dude, it was
But
probably just
anyway,
trying to
Trying
say
to be
thank
friends.
I think that's what
Yeah.
it was. That's why I didn't want to be like mean to it. So that's why I left it for a little. It's like, oh, he's saying thank you. I'm like, okay, I don't like this anymore. You're on my. I can feel you crawling against
shit
my
blade.
shoulder blades. Like, ugh.
Dude,
It
I
was-
can totally see you like running around all willy nilly, just like swatting at your back and shit.
Eventually, it flew away, but I was still like, ugh, I got the heebie-jeebies from it. I don't mind bugs landing on me, but I don't like them crawling on me. There's a significant difference between the two.
Mhm.
So,
Do you
but
guys remember
anyway,
those?
didn't get stung. So,
It's a win.
and I saved
It's a
a
win.
bumblebee's life. So, all in all, a win.
So I'm a pretty good guy, is what I'm trying to say. Do you
Basically.
guys remember those commercials back in the day of the salt gun you could buy to just murk
Mm.
insects?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, you show like the slow-mo shot of it just getting like decimated with the salt. I always wanted one of those things.
Alyssa's cousins have one, and they take it when they go camping, and they just fucking shoot beetles and shit that they find in the woods.
Oh,
I feel like that wouldn't kill a beetle if it had like a hard shell.
Yeah, I don't know. They just shoot shit with it.
Yeah.
Is the
Awesome.
point? Because like salt's cheap, so it's you get the good kosher coarse salt.
Oh yeah. Like that finishing salt.
Grape
Oh,
shot
yeah,
that
the
shit.
good stuff.
nah, dude, I just shot at birds with a potato cannon. Boom.
Dayton, why don't you introduce your topic for tonight?
Okay, yeah. So this is the topic that I've been thinking about for like a while. Except I wanted to like bring it up to the guys before, a little bit before we talked about it, so we could actually think about what we're gonna talk about instead of just talking out of our ass for an hour like we usually do. So it is personal philosophies slash like rules that I'll call them like quote unquote rules that you live by, or like personal like mantras that you have to like keep you going through like tough times. So I guess I'll start it off with like an example. So like this is more just like a personal philosophy. It's like if it takes less than 5 minutes, I'm gonna do it right now, and that helps me prioritize my time to, keep my efforts focused, or maybe not focused because it's kind of scatterbrained, but it's like then I don't have all this other shit in the back of my mind. I can just kind of attack this one thing once I get this other thing swatted away. Like with dishes, like if I see like 2 spoons in the sink, I'm just gonna go clean them because that's gonna take me like a minute and a half. or if I need to like call someone really quick and like ask them like what their hours are, I just do it immediately. And I don't know, I found that makes me more productive. But I'm curious to hear what you guys have. If you have any like personal philosophies or like rules to live by, or
Hmm. When you asked this question in our chat, my first question was like conscious thoughts or unconscious, and you mentioned like more conscious ones, and I was thinking about like I
yeah, I
don't
was
really
kind of confused when you asked me unconscious. Like, how can it be a
be,
personal philosophy if it's unconscious?
because like I feel like a lot of my actions are very deeply like rooted in my personality, where I don't like consciously think about them, I just do them, you know.
Mm.
But that example you gave made me think of one where I think of myself as a procrastinator in general. Like I'm not as good about like doing those two spoons in the sink or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
filling them in the dishwasher. But I do one thing I do really like try to do is just like schedule all of my time, um, especially like during like the quote unquote work day of
Mm-hmm.
like okay, it's simple stuff like okay I have class here and class here whatever, but also it's like okay well I'm gonna use this chunk of time to do this specific homework assignment. I'm gonna use this chunk of time to do this research. Um, that really helps me just like organize myself, and if I don't have that, I kind of get like scatterbrained and like a little bit anxious like when am I gonna get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And along that same vein, I set just like a shit ton of reminders on my phone, so I never forget to do things at like certain times. So like at any given day, I probably have like 3, 4, or 5 reminders going off at 8 a.m. just to remind me of shit like that day I need to do, and they'll just
Mm-hmm.
sit in my phone until I end up completing them. So um, that's what kind of more of an organizational philosophy. But I know like if I don't set reminders, I'll forget stuff. So I'm just
Yeah.
very if I as soon as I think of something, okay, I gotta set that reminder like right now, or else I'm not gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing for me.
Yeah, I do that too. I don't set reminders, but I make sure that I write everything down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joseph, you got anything up in that
Hmm.
big brain ears?
Big brain of
It's a
mine.
dusty attic.
You're telling me. I'm trying to think. I don't really have anything specific for like my personal life. I guess I kind of have a mantra of like, why not with a lot of things, or like worst that can happen type thing, where like, you guys always say that I'm easy to convince to do stuff, and I am, but part of it is
Genius.
because it's like, well, why not? What's the worst that happens if I go do this thing with you?
Ha. Is that your smoke
Did you
detector?
guys hear that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what was
Smoke
that?
detector.
That's my smoke detector dying. It
What
fucking
is
beeps and then said low battery. It happened earlier today and I shit myself. I was, oh my god, I need to fucking fix that quick before I
Dude,
go
I'm
to
gonna
bed.
I'm gonna I'm gonna bass boost that little dialogue. It's
Oh
like
my
low
god.
battery and just vibrates all the windows like in the house.
But anyway, it's like, why not go do this? Because worst case, I'm doing something with my friend, whether it's fun or not. I can at least have fun hanging out with my friend, right? Um, so like I kind of do that a lot. I know I've said this a lot, but I do kind of live by it. With skiing, at least, is
Oh gosh.
the 4 rules of skiing, right? Um, and I know I say them a lot, so I don't necessarily need to say them today, but because I know it triggers Gabe when I talk about
A
it.
little.
But I do find that they can not directly, but are somewhat applicable to like everyday life, where like you can't get hurt in the air, so you might as well like try something, right? As long as you prepare the landing, why not go for and like obviously I'm bullshitting, but
That's the one I have issue with. Is you can't get hurt in the air because you could definitely fuck yourself up when you land.
yeah,
That's the
but
thing. You don't get hurt in the air. You get hurt once you get back to the ground.
exactly. So like you could argue, right, that like as long as you prepare the landing, it doesn't
Sure,
matter how big the jump is.
sure.
You can take a leap of faith, but if, you have a good idea of how to land it, you'll
Hmm.
be fine. People do the fucking, what is that? The ski jump that they do where they like
Yeah,
fucking, I
Hmm.
forget, it's not the long jump. I forget what it's.
It's a ski jump.
Yeah, ski jump. And they fucking go flying and like they land just fine.
Mhm.
That's more than a jump than I'd want to take. That's kind of the point where like,
Yeah,
I could argue that I take those into more of my daily life. maybe not as much as the whole why not shit, but yeah.
What's it? Wait, you didn't say the other two, Joseph.
Well, I didn't want to trigger Gabe.
Go,
So
hey,
it's
you can't
do
just
it.
tease the audience like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
People
know I
haven't
brought it
listened to
up,
the whole
but
catalog.
anyway, the 3 rules, the 3 original rules plus the amended 4. Fourth is you can't get hurt in the air, speed is your friend, your brain is your enemy, and then there's no friends on powder days. Um,
Gabe's
but
probably
I
just salty because he's probably gotten stood up on POW days.
Dude, we
He hasn't even seen a
Joseph
good
over
POW.
more than he's fucked us over. We left him when he fucking broke his shin or his knee or whatever.
Yeah,
So we could record a couple of videos.
that wasn't even a powder day too.
Still left you.
He at least left me at the bar, so it was fine.
True.
But yeah, so
I thought wasn't one of the rules if it's between your feet and the ground, like take care of it or
Oh,
something?
that's
Or is that a separate rule?
oh, that's just a general rule I have.
Okay, that's another.
That's not
another mantra.
related to skiing. But yeah, if it's between anything between you and the earth is worth spending money on. Mattresses, tires, shoes, to name a few.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I like it. Gabe.
Oh boy. I don't know if I have like a ton of like mantras, so to speak. I think kind of what you were saying, there's a lot of things that I just kind of do because it's what my internal monologue or my internal thought process follows, and it makes sense for me. But I guess like one that I try and think of a lot about is the idea of trying to like enjoy life as much as I can. And that typically comes down to like sometimes be like, maybe I shouldn't spend money on this, but if it makes me happy or I spend time with people or it's an experience, I try to use that not as an excuse, but as like a justification, I guess. Like if I spend money and or time, which is also like kind of a currency, so to speak, on something, and it gives me a memory that I can look back on, or it gives me a skill that I find value in myself, I am willing to put money down on it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or time.
Mhm.
Usually one of the two.
For sure.
I guess the other, it's not really like my mantra. Stole it from a book, but I like the quote. It's from Dune, which a movie is coming out.
Dude, that trailer looked fucking hot.
It
Fuck, I need to watch that trailer.
It
Still.
looks so good.
God.
I'm very excited. But the famous quote that comes from that book is "Fear is the mind killer," and I think about that a lot because I don't think I'm a very I wouldn't describe myself as a risk taker. I think that a lot of the things I do, I think through to a crippling degree. Like I think it in and out a lot before I make a decision. But it's nice to have that reference. Like if there is something that's like quote unquote risky, at least to myself, that sometimes that is like it's worth the gain, or it's worth what you can gain, and it's maybe not ideal, but it's worth learning if you've lost. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think another one that I have, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of like my inner dialogue, and that's kind of where I want to move the conversation eventually. But just like this self-talk kind of stuff. This might be just like cockiness or whatever, but I'm gonna spin it a little bit. So like, let's say I'm in class or whatever, and a lot of my school related because I'm still in fucking school. But you know, it's like we're going over this a PowerPoint slide or whatever, and it gets to the point where it's like I got this, like I understand it. Let's move on. And I kind of just get into this like, I understand it, move on kind of thought process, and I kind of just zone out. But what I think that is kind of indicative of, and I've noticed in myself a lot these past few weeks in grad school, is like I really like just tell me what the main point is, the big picture, like the nut of this this idea. I just want like the main points, what I really like need to know. Like I really like kind of digging through stuff and just figuring out like what do I actually need to know for this. Maybe it's a little bit of like engineering mentality in there too, but I don't like the fluff around shit. Like I just
You want to
I
make
just like
a summary memo. That's what you want.
yeah, just cut to like with the shit I'm actually going to use that is actually important that I actually need. And like I had an exam on Monday, and when I was studying for it, we have like study groups that we do. So like in our discussion, just like some people were getting really caught up in like the weeds with like questions that like didn't really matter, and it's like it kind of like, hey, like listen, on this exam he's not gonna ask us this, so just don't worry about it. Like this is the main point of like this slide or whatever. Like I really that gives me a lot of satisfaction. And I think it's a useful skill to have of just being able to figure out what is important when you're like analyzing a problem, I guess. So that's something I try to focus on.
Yes.
I've got one that's like not related to school at all. So as you guys know, I regularly enjoy putting myself into like I'll call them painful situations when it comes to outdoor activities. And a lot of the times when I'm doing them, like if I'm out like running by myself and like I'm like pushing myself like harder than usual, I'm not with anyone. I just like find myself like zoning out, and I just like repeat to myself like anything that's worth doing is not easy. And like that is just really just like, yeah, like I'm out here for a specific reason. I'm out here because I want to put myself into this shitty situation. And because I'm out here doing that, I'm going to be better than what I was before. And it's like a pretty like fluid, depending on like how I'm feeling during the day, like the sentence can be kind of fluid. Like sometimes it's like, as I said before, other times it's like only the things that are worth doing are hard. But they all have like the same meaning. And it's just kind of like, it's an idea that I just kind of repeat back to myself when I'm fighting through some particularly shitty, fitness related event that I'm doing.
What was the terminology you used, Dayton, when you were describing like different levels of
Oh,
pain?
it's type 2 fun.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, there's like type
Yeah.
1 fun, type 2
Yeah,
fun.
so there's like type 1 fun, which is just like fucking getting drunk with your buddies and whatever, right? Where like you're having fun in the moment. Type 2 fun is where you're like, yeah, this is kind of shitty in the moment, but I know that I'm going to look back on it and it's going to be fun. And then type 3 fun, which is one that my good friend Justin and I we came up with after doing the presidential traverse earlier this summer, and it's absolutely awful in the moment. It's not even just slightly miserable. It is actually awful in the moment. And even looking back on it right now, I'm still kind of like, fuck that shit. But I can also be like, yeah, you know what? I fucking did that, and that was cool, and it was funny seeing the state that our bodies were in at the very end of that, because we were absolutely hobbling to the car.
Maybe in like 5-10 years, then it'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of those things you like tell a family member, or like a young family member or something.
Yeah.
I got one more quick one, and that is, if I want, like, I think about a lot of the things. Like, I pick up a ton of hobbies, like left and right, and I think that most people can learn to be pretty good at anything with time. Like they say, the 10,000 hour rule or whatever. Like if you do something for 10,000 hours, you'll eventually become an expert. That's a crock of shit. Like scientifically, has been disproven hundreds of times. Not true. However, I think that if you put in enough time, you can be pretty good at something. And I like to think about that a lot. Where it's like, for example, it's like I pick up guitar. Like, yeah, I can learn this. Like it's gonna suck for the first couple months, and it's kind of like what Dana was saying. Sometimes that stuff's more rewarding in the end, because like, you suffered through the bullshit to get to the stuff that's rewarding. But I try not to let like the I don't know what it's called, like, I don't know, the struggle or like the idea of the struggle stop me from trying to learn something. Like if I want to learn it, or if something seems interesting to me, I try to just find the easiest way to slip into it and start learning it or start enjoying it. I think that's pretty important, because I think some people get caught up on that,
Yeah. You just reminded me of something. This is a deep cut, deep. I did back like in elementary school, I did like karate at some local fucking place for like a month or something like that. But I remember the instructor saying, "Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect." And that has always stuck with me. I don't think about it often, but it'll sometimes just pop into my head. The idea being like, yeah, if you like practice like shit, then you're gonna be shitty. Like if you practice something wrong, it doesn't mean it's because you did it for a super long time. Doesn't mean you're good at it. Like you actually like practice something well.
Right.
I heard a similar thing, but it was practice makes permanent.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's the exact same like meaning as that, but like,
Yeah.
the way you do it is the way you're gonna do. The way you practice is the way you're gonna do it when you're not thinking about it. That's how I learned with like golf. Is like,
Mhm.
if you do this shitty thing every time, that's how you're going to do it. The more like, unless you like correct yourself and like make the correction and like practice that way, then that way will be permanent.
Yep. Yeah, and like it was funny because at the time I was like, "Fuck you, boomer!" Like
In
this is the same
elementary school.
this is the same
In
guy who was
elementary
saying you should never walk around with your hands in your pockets because somebody comes behind you and bear hug you and then you're trapped. I'm like, that's not gonna
What the
fucking happen.
hell?
Yeah, this guy was a little bit.
I mean, it's not wrong.
He's not wrong, but it's like that's not gonna fucking happen.
That guy
Also not
definitely
a
had a
concern.
concealed carry permit and
Yeah.
a
Oh yeah.
It's like saying you should always carry bear mace with you because you never know when a bear is gonna wander into town. It's like, yeah, you don't know when a bear is gonna wander into town, but also, what are the
It's not.
chances
It's
of a
not
bear?
worth the inconvenience of But it's funny because that just reminded me. At least gonna pop in my head now. With like the perfect practice thing and the like. To me, like I try to be a very teachable person. Like when I'm in like a new situation, like a new job, or right now I'm in like a lab where I just don't know anything. Like I will defer to the senior, whatever they say. I'm like, yeah, like I'm not gonna challenge you at all. Like you've been doing this for a long time. I trust you. You'll teach me how to do this thing right. And yeah, eventually once I know it enough, I can maybe put my spin on it. But like for now, I'm just straight up like just trying to be very teachable and learn it, which was interesting today because I mentioned so it's me and this other guy, my project partner, and I got ahead of him because I like was in one day he wasn't. So my professor wanted me to teach him how to do stuff that I had learned, and so we're just talking about like pipetting, micropipetting. So like I don't know if you guys are familiar, but like there's micropipettes that can do very small volumes, and they have you like push down once, and that's like the entire volume, and there's like a second push that just spurts some air out to get any droplets or whatever. So not to get too technical, but like when you suck up liquid, you only go to that first stop because that's the actual measurement. So I told him like, all right, hey, but like here's how you do it. First stop, suck it up. When you put it in, push it down, and then do the air thing. It's pretty simple. So he does it, and he's like, now that I've done it, I think I figured out how you're actually supposed to do it. And I'm like, no. I told you how to do it. That's the way. That's like the way you do it. You don't get to put your spin on it on how to pipette things. It's a very like scientific like measurement. He's like, nah, I think you should really push it all the way down. He like has some weird logic. I'm like, dude, like this isn't room for interpretation. Like you need to just fucking learn how to do this process. And like we eventually figured it out. But like that's very different from me. And when I'm learning specific from a person, it's like if you have the knowledge, I will trust you implicitly. Maybe I'm too trusting. I don't know. But it's just like if I don't know. It just makes sense to me to learn it from the source. I'm not gonna try to put my random shit on it immediately. So, I guess that's another kind of philosophy I have, where I try to learn from my elders. I guess.
until they're doing it wrong and you're fucked.
Exactly.
But you only realize that they're doing it wrong once you have the knowledge of doing it independently for long enough.
Yeah. Today at work, I had done something that someone told me on like week 1 for my project, and they reviewed it today. So I was like, "Why'd you do that?" And I was like, "Someone told me to." Like, don't do that. Oh, we don't do that? No. I was like, "Oh, fucking cool. I've been doing it for 6 months."
It's like you don't know any better. You just do what you're told.
I mean, why would I? Like, especially when it's something like that where it's a very company specific process, or it's specific to them. So I was like, not like I could just pick it up from the internet. It's like just how they did it. So.
Yeah. So kind of switching the conversation a little bit, a little spin on it. So on the same kind of vein, what is your guys' like inner dialogues like normally? Like what is your talking to yourself, or just like what's going on between the ears at any given point? You know, is it lights on, nobody's home? Are you solving some complex mathematic equation? Like, you know, what's going on in your head at any given time?
So I've always heard that some people will like think in like the same way they talk, where it's like their words coming out of their, I don't know, brain, whatever. And other people think in like concepts, where
Mm,
it's like a little bit more abstract. And I'm of the vein where it's like when I read something, it's as if I'm saying it in
yep.
my head. And that's how I think. And I don't know if it's because I think that way, that's how I read, or, which one came first, if that's just how it happens or what. But I definitely like say sentences in my head, and that is like how my thought process works. Um, and then when I'm like doing something, I usually, I don't know, I think about what I'm gonna say, and so I like say the sentence, say in my head, and then it comes out my mouth, which is really weird explaining it as it's happening, right now. It's a little bit of that weird, second level shit, big brain move,
Galaxy brain.
Yeah.
He's actually
But
sitting on his brain. It's so large. In that
yeah,
chair.
exactly. But yeah, I don't know. That's
Oh
kind
yeah,
of how.
I'm in the same exact boat, Joseph. Like I the way I think is the same exact way I talk.
Mhm. And
I
it's like
think.
even my like vernacular and like my mannerisms and the way I talk is the
Mhm.
exact same thing. Like if I could, say my thoughts, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Like it would, in my head, it comes out exactly as I.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. I think the only thing, I don't know if this is me being weird,
Probably.
but I mean pretty much the same way like that you described. But when I wake up and my brain is like turning on, like I'll get in the shower, right? And it just doesn't work right. Like my inner dialogue, I start like gears start turning. Like I don't know, like there's a moment you wake up and there's like 2 seconds where you don't know where you are or who you are or what you're doing. It's very peaceful. And then it's like boom, I need to do all these things. And then I get up, I get in the shower, and I'm like task after task. Here's all the things I need to do at work. Here's all the things I need to do in my private life. Like constant task. But like the first couple things are just like jumbled thoughts. I can't even tell you a good one because I can't remember them, but they're
Yeah,
just
they're like
straight stupid.
they're like
Like
dreams, kind of. They just kind of they're fleeting, but they make no goddamn
they
sense.
make no sense. And the thing is, it's spooky because I realize they don't make fucking sense, and I'm not awake.
Hmm.
So like I don't know. I'll be thinking like I need to take my car flying or some bullshit, and it'll make total sense. And
Yep.
then I'll like think about it like I'm not awake. Like that doesn't track. I don't know. And then
Something's off.
once the gears start going, then it's like okay, I'm starting to think like myself again. It's like I'm very drunk, and I don't know. But then I start becoming normal for like the end of the day.
Dude,
As normal as you get.
I have a
Yeah.
very similar thing, except mine is visually, and it's only when I'm like dozing off. So it's like I'm like entering into like a dream state, except like just like random things. Like I just like visualize like random like it's like a movie happening, or like a regular dream, and like I don't even like in the moment I'm just like, yeah, this is happening, this is cool.
Yeah,
And then,
exactly.
and then like I stop dozing off and I'm like, what in the fuck, like how did my brain, one, think of that, and two, think that was ever gonna be normal?
Yeah.
Like
That's the freaky part is you accept it for what it is in the moment until like there's a few seconds of like actual contemplation on it and you're like, wait,
you're
this
just like,
doesn't
this
work.
literally makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like,
I get that sometimes, but only if I'm like exhausted. Like if I'm just completely exhausted and I lay down, close my eyes, I can like very vividly visualize things, like
mhm.
in the dark, eyes closed, whatever. Like I can see my room. Like I can visualize where all my things are in my room. It's not like exact, but it's like where I think they are. But
Yeah.
I can like see outlines of things, And it gets creepy because then I'm like, oh, I can see things. What else can I see? And I start seeing like scary shit and shit. It's not a
Oh,
fun
yeah.
time.
You just have
But
like waking sleep paralysis or something.
it's kind of what it's like. But it's like I'm still like awake. I'm not like falling asleep. I'm just like super tired.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. So
Really,
now
really
speaking
weird.
on like exhaustion, I have a question for you guys. So one thing that my friend Justin and I realized is that both of us, when we get like really tired, and like we obviously start to get like loopy and stuff like that, and one, I don't know what the hell makes you get like really like loopy or slap happy, whatever the hell you want to call it, when you get really tired, or exhausted. But we both came to the realization that when we're exhausted, we can like be like walking past like strangers or whatever, like on the trail. This is like when we first realized it. We would like walk past people on the trail, and we would both think that we recognized that person, except it definitely wasn't them. And like after like thinking about it a little bit more, we're like, no, like that's obviously not that person. But like in the moment, like we were just like, dude, that person looks exactly like this guy. And like both of us were like, yeah. It's just like
That's interesting.
it's just like I think it maybe was just like us being like so tired, and we weren't putting in like a ton of effort into like looking at people. We were just like kind of like glancing at them, and we weren't like paying attention that much. So it's like if we picked out like one feature from like their face, like if they had like a big nose or something like that, it's like, oh hey, I know a guy who has a big nose and brown hair. Must be that guy, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's super interesting. I don't think I've ever like consciously thought about that.
yeah, and I got it when I was coming back from New Zealand as well, where like when I was in the airport, um, I would always like like quote unquote see people
Mhm.
that I knew over in New Zealand,
Yeah,
um, and it was just like really weird.
that happened to me too. But it happened to me more though when I first got to tech, and I saw people I thought I went to high school with.
Hmm.
I'm like, is that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it's just a like look like or whatever.
I
Yeah.
say I got that same shit when I would like be at school and then like go back where it's
Mm.
like
Hmm.
go back to like home. Like I would see people and think, "Oh, this looks like this person." And then like I'd go back to tech and say the same thing about that person that
Yep.
I just obviously they probably look alike, but I would definitely see like it's definitely when I like switch locations for like an extended period or I've been in one spot for like a long time
Mm-hmm.
and then going back to somewhere another familiar place usually
Yeah.
because then you're not like it's like when you're walking on campus your senior year you're not looking at people, right? You got a good idea of what the people look like because it's a small campus and
Yep.
like for
You
the
have your
most
routes
part.
every day. You see the same people walking by.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you come back, Thanksgiving break, it's like, oh, that looks like that person from high school, or whatever it is.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
I'm thinking about the exhaustion thing, Dayton, and yeah, it's like when I'm like just mentally exhausted, I just cannot process anything. Like I literally just need to lay on the couch and just be my phone or watch something. But when I'm like very physically exhausted and I'm around people, there's been a few times I've got just super slap happy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like being drunk. Like just
Yeah.
your inhibitions are just gone, and it's honestly like how I am when I'm just like super drunk. And I was like, yeah. I remember that happening in high school a few times where like I had cross country that day and it had been a long day or whatever. I'm just like, and it was like a Friday night and it's like 2 in the morning. And you're just like, you're just up for anything, and you just know it's because you're just fucking exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's funny. It's a funny feeling.
Yeah. I remember that one of the things that Justin and I talked about is we role played Alex Jones supporters for like it must have been like 45 minutes to an hour. And it was so funny because like obviously like him and I have very similar opinions on how fucking crazy like Alex Jones is and shit like that. And like we that was just like the craziest shit ever. It's just, I don't even know what sparked it, but something must have kicked it off in our exhausted
That's
exhausted stupor.
It's so true. That happened to me in
went
New
with it.
Zealand too, where you're on like a hike and you're just dying, and
Mhm.
you're with like your friends, and you just start doing these stupid ass bits.
Yeah.
And they last for like hours because you're just so exhausted you can't think of anything else. You're just doing these dumbass bits over and over again. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing?
And you're just walking, right? Like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
walking.
you just walk in and somebody will say the thing like, "Oh, that's funny," and like be quiet for another 10 minutes, and randomly the bit again, and you're just like,
Yep.
"Oh my god."
It's so funny. It's so funny. I love it. I love it. Oh.
I was thinking about. Or go ahead, you Gabe.
I was just gonna. It was a different vein, so if you had the same thought,
No,
continue.
go ahead. I was gonna switch up.
I was just gonna say, if I ever go back, 'cause every now and then I listen to my own work, listen to the podcast.
Taste your own brand, you know?
I do, you know. Sometimes it's just like, and especially now that we're at, what is this 84?
Mm-hmm.
There's some episodes I don't remember recording. I straight up don't remember saying them. But here's the spooky part. I'll put it on, and someone will talk about a conversation or bring something up, and my brain thinks of something, and then I say it on the podcast. It's fucking freaky because it's just like that could have been. I mean, well, we've been doing it for over a year now, so depending on the episode, it could be,
We're coming up on 2 years.
Yeah, it could be over a year worth of content ago or conversation ago, and sometimes my brain will still find a way to get to that thought process or to get to that path, and it is so fucking bizarre. Like, I don't know how many people who are listening actually record your conversations and go back to listen to them, but it's pretty weird. It's very like odd
weird.
thing.
Actually, Joseph, we might be getting really close to 2 years because
We started in the fall.
Yeah,
And
we
after
started-
career fair.
we've had like hiatuses and stuff. So
yeah, that's why it's not 104, right?
yeah, I think
But,
maybe
yeah.
first week of October.
It was
Yeah,
whenever. Well,
That would
it's
make
going to
sense
be around
because
Max's birthday.
I
Because
know
Max's
it's
birthday is near career fair usually, and it was after career fair.
The gymnastics you're doing right now. I mean, I can,
Hey, it works though.
I can just look up when our
and,
first Instagram
and
post.
I know that we started
But we
doing
didn't
it
post on
shortly
Instagram.
shortly after I started
did you?
eating vegetarian.
Yes, we did.
And
know
that
it
was
was
that was October.
Well, no, because you did that instead of No Nut November.
No, I did it instead of sober October.
Sober October, that's what it was.
Definitely did it in October. I
Our
remember.
first post is on
Oh,
October
yeah.
9th. October 9th, 2018.
Okay, fuck.
So we're
Yeah.
getting close, boys.
Huh.
Shit.
I was just gonna say, yeah. So I was thinking about today, like, what is my thought process usually? And it's, I tend to avoid thinking by just listening to stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not think you're gonna finish that set.
I just avoid thinking.
Just period.
Like I really like to have headphones in or listening to something like most hours of the day. And when I'm listening to music, if I'm like actively listening to it, you know, I'm just like, it's like I'm singing the song in my head, you know.
Mhm.
Or if I'm listening to a podcast, I'm just like listening to the words. I'm not doing any, you know, personal thought. And yeah, I've said it before, but I often just listen to stuff because I just don't want to think. I don't want to have my own thoughts because, you know, it's the pain. Because often, like, Gabe, you're talking about in the morning you wake up and you're like, okay, I have to do this, this, and this today. That's me at night of like the things I have to do the next day, and that's that shit that keeps me up, and it's fucking sucks.
That's how I lose sleep, so I turn that shit off.
Yeah, like I literally on Monday night I could not sleep. I was up. It felt like I was up from 10:30 to 6:30. I just couldn't fall asleep at all because I was just thinking of just random ass shit. And to me, like when I'm on my own, I'm not even thinking of like important things. I'm thinking of like One Piece shit and like BoJack. It's like shows and like podcasts I've listened to. I'll just think about stuff in those. I'm not doing anything productive. But if I'm like, you know, working on a problem that'll work, I'll think about that. But I often like reminisce about stuff I've already experienced as opposed to like actively thinking about stuff, if that makes sense. That's a lot of my bandwidth, I feel.
I've noticed when I am kept up late thinking about things, it's because I've been so preoccupied that day that I couldn't think about or do anything I wanted to do that day.
Yeah.
So like, say I'm at work for, you know, however many hours, you know, full day, probably a late day. I get home, I have, you know, something I need to go to the grocery store, I need to do this. And then I get home, I cook and I clean and I go to bed. You know, it's just like I'm super busy. I will not be able to fall asleep because I didn't have time to like think about like, I don't know, general things I find interesting or whatever, or like spend time for like quote unquote me.
Hmm.
But if like I'm able to, do this, I usually sleep. I don't know if it's because of the beer or the conversation or what. I usually sleep pretty well after we record because I can get my thoughts out, I can think about things, and then I don't really have a whole lot like stuck in my head before I go to bed. But yeah, if I'm like super busy, just swamped, and I don't have time or like energy to do anything, then I like will not be able to fall asleep that night, I've noticed,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah.
interesting.
That's weird.
I
can
usually
relate to
don't
that.
have any issues falling asleep unless the temperature's too hot. I usually find that I exhaust myself during the day enough to where I'm literally just like so exhausted at night I just like hit the sack and I'm done. Well, I don't
Yeah.
actually hit the sack. That was a figure of speech. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you saying, Joseph, where it's been weird because this is the first time I've not had a roommate for a long time, and
Hmm.
there's obviously huge bonuses. But not having just anyone to talk to of just like how was your day, and it's like that random shit that you only talk to like people you live with about that you know
mhm.
have you had a day.
Yeah.
Not having that kind of just like a little bit of talk therapy, I'll call it. Um, I miss that, and like I feel like that does help me sleep where it's like you said, you kind of get out some of those just random ass thoughts you've had during the day, and you don't have to think about them anymore.
Hmm.
Because I've noticed like when I'm trying to sleep, I'll start just looping the same thoughts over and over. It's like, why am I still thinking about this? Like I've already, you know, finished solving this problem in my head. Why am I going through it again? Um, and not being able to vocalize it, I think, is part of it.
I do that shit all the time.
So I have a question for you guys to judge how clinically insane I am. So I catch myself a lot of the times teaching myself how to do something I already know. Like in my head, I think about how I would explain it to someone else, even though I'm just thinking it, even if it's like explaining it to myself. Do you guys do that too? Or is
You're
that
fucking
like,
crazy.
okay. I
No,
just
I
want,
don't.
I
I don't
don't
do
do
that.
that, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a good way to like remember.
it very well could be, but it's like something that I like know how to do well. I'll like go through it as I'm doing it and explain it to myself, if that makes sense. And then I catch myself doing it. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. Why the fuck who am I explaining this to? And I just wanted
Hmm.
I
to
mean,
gauge.
is it like okay, I'm doing this process first to do this, and then I do that, and like
Yeah, yeah,
just
it's
kind of
like, so let's say I don't know, putting something together. Like let's say I'm building a computer because that's a fairly straightforward thing. Like you buy the parts, you plug it in the certain order, you turn it on.
yeah.
So like in my head, I'd be like, okay, I want to do this, and next I need to do that and that and that, and I need to do it this way because of this and like
I do
the
that.
the
I do
way
that.
I explain it, and like the way I think about it, it's not like okay, I've done this, now I need to do this. It's this is why, and like kind of explaining it, even though I already have it ingrained in my head enough. I feel like I'm teaching myself,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. It's a
Hmm.
super weird
Hmm.
I feel like I
thing
do that
I've
a
caught
little bit.
myself doing.
Maybe a little. I don't know.
I feel like I get a little sing-songy sometimes too. I'm doing that kind of shit in my head. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm doing this and then doing that, like in that same exact tone. Like it's weird.
That's
Nah,
weird.
I don't do that. A lot of the times when I'm like doing shit like that, I'm not even like thinking. I'm just like mind's off and I'm just like on autopilot mode. Like for example, like Joseph, like if I'm like backpacking and I'm like getting into like camp or whatever, and I'm
Yeah.
like I'm just like okay, sure, like I have all these things that I like need to do to set up my camp, right? And I need to take my
Yeah.
tent out. I need to
Yeah.
put all the stakes in the ground. I need to put my trekking pole into it. I need
I
to
feel like that's
inflate
just
my
muscle
pad.
memory at that
Yeah,
point.
like so a lot of the time like with that stuff that I don't I find that I don't I rely on muscle memory more than anything else.
But that's
Yeah.
the thing is like I do too. And so I've already done it and then I explain it.
Yeah,
It's
no,
this
I
really
can't
weird
relate to that
thing.
at all.
Okay.
Sounds like
Cool.
insanity, dude.
Cool.
Yeah.
I
I'm
noticed.
gonna talk to a professional about that then.
Yeah. Hey, we're professionals just in a different sense.
Okay, the right professional.
On
I've
on
noticed
the
that
internal
Oh, good.
With internal monologues, I never said what my internal monologue
Oh
was.
yeah, sorry.
That is true.
I my internal monologue is a lot more vulgar. It's a lot more crude. It is. It gets heavily filtered before it comes out of my mouth. Um, I find myself complaining a lot more in my internal monologue. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much it. My internal monologue is just a much more unbearable version of myself. Pretty much is
I
what
can't even
I'm
imagine
trying
that.
is what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. Anyway,
I
Gabe,
mean-
what were you saying?
How do I follow that? I was just gonna say that I've noticed that I'm a lot more. That's such a hard thing to follow. It's not even related, and it makes it sound so much real lame. I was gonna say that I've noticed since I've specifically been doing guitar, because it's like this combination of like this physical thing and this like I'm not very good at rhythm. I'm learning that part.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
do it a lot by ear. So like I know the song. Like I've only play songs I know because that's what I want to play.
That's what's
So
fun.
yeah, so I play it, and then there's like the combination of like my hands. I've noticed when I sleep now, or if my eyes are closed, or I'm hearing the song, I visualize where my hands need to be, and it's really fucking freaky. Because I'll have dreams about like last night. I was learning a Led Zeppelin song, and I dreamed for what felt like forever how to put my hands where they were at and like how to do it.
I
Like
don't think that's weird. That's
that's
you trying to solve a problem.
Hmm.
maybe.
It's kind of like the Tetris effect.
But the thing is, I haven't done it previously like that much. At least with like that level of visual. I'm gonna say fidelity, even though it's a
Yeah.
brain picture.
But
Yeah,
you've been pretty committed to this now for like a good chunk of time. Like,
Yeah, it's been close to 3 months, and I play at least half hour a day, usually more if I can.
yeah, and I
So
mean,
I
like,
think it's just that much brain power is going to it.
I think that's the case. Yeah.
I would say like when I worked at the farm over this couple summers that I did, I was in like in not engulfed, I don't know, around a lot more Spanish speakers, predominantly Spanish speakers. So like I learned more Spanish those summers. And then I would like start thinking in Spanish just like in general. So I can totally see how like and I've heard that that's like
It's pretty
kind of one
common.
of the best ways to learn languages
That's
and I'm
super
sure
Yeah.
interesting, actually.
that like is the same thing that's going on. It's like you're playing the guitar every day, right? You know,
Mhm.
for you said half an hour at least. So, you know, you're constantly doing that. You're practicing and you're like in that mindset. So your brain's just like, and I'm sure even during the day, you're constantly thinking like you hear a song and you're thinking about where your hand would be at that.
Dude,
you
I
know.
listened to it twice today just
Yeah.
to like put my headspace there.
Exactly. Like I can totally see that. Yeah.
it's
This
it's just
mini
very bizarre.
I've just
mini
never been
tangent.
that involved in music to like to do that myself.
Well, yeah, we know you have no rhythm.
Yep.
Savage.
Gabe, this is a mini tangent question for you, but have you tried playing with a metronome to help you with
Uh,
rhythm?
Yeah, so my amp has like I looked away when I talked because it's back there, not to fuck up the audio. It has a little like blinking light for it to see. Um, the shitty thing is I played fucking trumpet for like 6, 7
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
I still am bad at it. It just I think it's one of those things that'll eventually come with time and the more practice I get with it. Because I'm a lefty. I play a right-handed guitar, so typically your dominant hand is going to be the one that's doing the strumming because it's the most coordinated. So
Mm-hmm.
ideally, my left hand would be doing the strumming, but because it's my right hand, it just kind of playing a lot of catch up,
Yeah.
trying to fucking figure it out. So I think that's part of it. But
Yeah.
metronome would help for sure.
I have those bad memories of like band lessons where the teacher's just like blaring the metronome that
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like, super
dude.
fucking loud. It's like you have to get on the rhythm. It's like fuck off, man. I'm trying my best.
Do that for like
But,
20 minutes straight, you go fucking crazy.
yeah, I mean it helps because you can really tell when you're lagging, but it's such a pain in the ass.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
well, there we have it. That's our episode for this week. We'll be back next week with a STEM episode. And I've been waiting for another STEM episode because I've been learning so much shit about science. I gotta tell you boys about it. But we'll be back with that next week. As always, you can find our show on Mondays on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and YouTube. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at EWF Podcast. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.